Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach David Bartkey here. Today is Sunday, March the 18th, 2018, a little after 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is your weekend dose of happy, and we're starting just a tad late here because, well, first of all, we are now obviously doing an evening podcast on Sunday evenings, and that's primarily so that Louise and I can go out and have weekends like normal folks do, and that's exactly what we did today, and we got a little bit stuck in traffic, so we're just a little tad late, but no damage done, no worries. David, how you doing? You doing well?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you guys had a good day.
We did. We actually got stuck in some traffic between what looked like a traffic accident, but we just kept keeping the faith and believing everything was going to work out. And sure enough, as soon as we started doing that, the traffic started to open up. So the law of attraction even works in those situations. And hopefully, whoever was involved in that traffic accident is going to be okay. We did see ambulances, but we don't really know what happened. So we're just going to,
let's hope for sure.
We're just going to put out positive energy and hope those people come through A-okay. So how about you? Have you had a good weekend so far?
Yeah, very nice. Did a bunch of relaxing and, typical weekend stuff, some chores, some coaching sessions, everything went really well.
That's a typical weekend, huh? Wow.
Yeah. And I was just looking forward to the call tonight.
Very good. And we have our first caller for the evening, too, which is a great way to start off a Sunday night. So let's bring him in here. Who's on the line with us?
This is Janet.
Hey, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hey, hi, guys. How are you?
We haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Such a crazy story to tell you guys.
Oh, well.
This is the Janet that you called in a while ago that you were house hunting.
I remember that one. Yeah, you were house hunting.
Do you remember?
You were house hunting, and you were looking for a house that had fireplaces in every room, if I remember correctly.
You do remember that. That's very impressive.
Well, you have to admit it.
Sure
that was pretty unusual.
Not sure if you started your search when we talked a few months ago, however long ago that was, but
well. Yes, well, let me just tell you briefly, if you remember, it was, which you do seem to remember, it was around November. My husband was just coming through a cancer treatment, and we had been planning to move, so over the probably years we had some momentum, but I didn't have any clear picture, really. It was like kind of fingers crossed, and you told me to go tell you a long wish list.
Yeah.
And I did, you're right, I wanted...
How's your husband doing? Is he improving?
Oh, thank you. He is improving, and he's feeling much better.
Good.
Cancer's all gone, all of that.
Hooray!
Yes, that's the most important. And he is, it's a slow recovery, but all signs are looking good.
Fantastic.
So that it is great. And I had made this long list of that I just couldn't see. I knew I wanted things, and you guys had helped me make this list. Do you remember I wanted like bunnies and deer and trees?
Yes.
And do you remember that part? And the fireplaces. I wanted to be Snow White, right?
That's right, yes.
Well, what happened was we moved in with my father-in-law for a couple of months. We moved up to Northern California, and we figured it would take at least even 6 months to even find something and get all financing in order. And crazy stuff started to happen that just everything was just speeding up. And we went for a walk on New Year's Day. We went a different direction that we never go. So we just said, let's just go up this street. So we go up the street, and they happened to have one of the houses were for sale. And since it was New Year's Day, you would not expect anyone to be showing a house.
Right.
Yeah. And they were not showing the house, but they happened to have the realtor there.
Nice.
And it was some kind of private thing or something. So we said, oh, can we see? And she said, it's not really open, but, go ahead. Just take a quick look. Well, we fell in love in about 2 seconds.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It's got not that it has a fireplace in every room, but it does have, it seriously has deer going across the lawn and bunnies, jackrabbits, and it's blue jays. It is just really funny. Flowers in the backyard, plenty of room, more room than we thought we could get. Just everything that we kind of wanted. And I just did not see that really coming. But apparently, law of attraction was hearing me.
One thing I love about law of attraction is that we we usually don't know how something's going to manifest.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's not even a good idea. It's not even good to get caught up in trying to figure out how.
No, you just drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. So were you doing any kind of like law of attraction work previous to this? Were you just kind of picturing yourself in a house and keeping good vibrations about it?
Truthfully, I couldn't really picture it. It felt like a stumbling block, because it seems like you want some kind of vision in your mind. But I only really knew the feeling.
Qualities you want. Yeah.
The quality and the feeling that I wanted to have, and that everybody always says, oh, when you find a house, you'll know it's the right one. And that, I guess there's some truth to that. It was very strange that it was available that day.
I mean, first of all, you went up a street you normally don't go.
Exactly.
And this house happens to be open on a day, or not open, but someone happened to be there, the realtor, showing on a day when 99.9% of homes are not being looked at.
Exactly.
And you were able to
weird.
Get in. I know, and you were able to get in and see it. So to me, that's very law of attraction, the way that was set up for you.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And the people that were having the private showing, or whoever they were, maybe they were from out of town, so they had to see, quickly. But they said, well, it's kind of quirky. And my husband and I looked at each other because we kind of like quirky. And it's not that quirky, but I could see where somebody might have thought so. But it was perfect for us. And we're starting to just, move things, and we're loving it. It just came together.
How did the whole thing go? Like, once you decided, oh, this is our house. Like, did it go pretty easily and all that kind of thing, or?
Well, oddly, it did. It was so funny that everything fell into place. And I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but it fell into place so quickly. Like, I would need how that you have so much paperwork. And so they were saying, oh, you need to get this. And we said, oh, my God, where is that in a move? You just moved. How are we going to find that? We would literally pick up the phone and call who we thought could help us. And they had it like right there in front of them. It kept happening. It was so crazy. So that part went really smoothly. It was so in fact, I had this vibration kind of like, what do I want next? Because it felt like everything I was wanting, I could just make happen.
Isn't that a great feeling?
It was. I just wish it lasted longer.
Well, actually, that's what we keep aiming at that, because the more that we can get into that feeling place, the more we stay there and more cool things happen.
It was amazing. You're right. It was one thing just kept happening after the next. I mean, it was a lot of momentum to get us in here.
I was going to say, it sounds like once the momentum started on that particular house, then that was it. Like, everything kind of just fell into place, and it kind of happened quickly.
You could not argue that. But it just was really funny because we do have a real fireplace in the living room, but then we have our little tiny fireplaces that you plug in your room. So I got them one way or another.
So you did get them, okay.
I made it happen. I wasn't going down without my fireplace.
There you go. That's really funny. So you saw it on... you saw it on January 1st. How long from January 1st did it take before you were able to make the offer, close, and move in?
We got the keys in our hand on February 8th.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is fast.
That's quick.
Yeah.
That's very
It is. We put out the offer. They came back. We said, I can picture it. I said, we'll never forget. I was like jumping up and down, screaming when they counted. And I said, we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Because it was just, we'll take it.
Now that you've been in there, like, does it feel like you made the right decision? Does it feel like home and all that kind of thing?
It definitely feels like there's probably not a day that goes by that I don't say to my husband, I didn't realize I wanted this, but now when I think back, I always wanted that. And that keeps happening. It is like there's a little brook that runs along the side. And years ago, I had looked at a house when I was a kid with my parents, and it had a brook, and I thought, oh, my God, that is so cool. I'd love to have that. Now, I didn't think about it again because, I'm living in Los Angeles, but this property has this like brook running through it. And I was, so things like that keep happening. It's so weird.
That's actually a good lesson, though, because so often we're told by the LOA experts, so to speak, that when you have a positive feeling, a positive request, or what Abraham calls a rocket of desire, it stays in your vortex until it can be delivered. And it's like all these things were waiting there for you just to find the right house, so they could just deliver all of these old requests to you all at the same time. That's the way it's supposed to work.
I can't argue that, because these things just keep happening. It's so strange. Things that I did not think about, and I wanted the backyard kind of fenced in because the cats could go outside, and just little things. I mean, they seem really small, but at some point I thought about it. Right. Like you're saying, I thought about it, and I guess it was just in my vortex somewhere.
So the backyard is fenced in?
Well, yeah, just part of it. It's kind of got a big property, but the part that we wanted the cats to be able to go into, already the little screen fenced area is up.
Wow, that's great, because a lot of properties don't have that. Like, you have to put it in yourself.
Exactly.
So that's great that already has that.
That's nice, yeah.
So the little deer can't come in the backyard, though, so that's okay. They can go on the rest of the property. They can walk across in the morning on the front lawn.
And if I remember correctly, you wanted to find this property in Northern California?
Yes.
And you got that.
Exactly where we are.
That's excellent.
Yes.
That is excellent.
It's so weird. I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, we were flexible on certain things, like, views, and we wanted to be flexible because we didn't know exactly which one would make us the happiest. So, it was just weird. Weird. What else can I create?
Do you have a nice view?
So what else? What do you want to manifest next? What's something else you're looking forward to manifesting?
Oh, I suppose business could be good, and my husband's job could be going quicker. All those kinds of things. The usual.
Well, you mentioned also. You also mentioned you weren't really sure what kind of view you wanted. What kind of view did you get?
Well, this is another one of those things that's going to sound crazy, but from every room and everywhere we go in this house, you get a different gorgeous view. I mean, the front has like 4 Christmas trees, whatever those type of trees are.
Oh, the evergreen,
Yeah, and it's on kind of a cul-de-sac, so there's really very few neighbors, which is fantastic. Lots of space. I mean, there's a long front porch and big backyard and a side. It's just crazy, and every view is beautiful. It's the weirdest thing ever. I mean, I must have really, really, really wanted this, because I was pretty miserable, as was my husband, during the cancer, and so it was hard to really think about all these things that you want. You feel pretty down.
But you did make your list, though, of the aspects you wanted, so at least that gave you something to kind of focus on.
It did, but it's crazy how we got even more things. I mean, my husband must have had in his own vortex, because there's an extra room that we made into a music room. Now, neither one of us were thinking out loud we'd like to have a music room, but he's a drummer, and when I said, "Oh my gosh, you could use that as a music room," he kind of stopped in his tracks and was like, "Here's a good idea."
So how many items on your list did you actually hit? I mean, you made a list, but how many of them did you actually get?
I would say I got all, other than having a fireplace in every room and a view of high treetops. I don't have high treetops, but I have all kinds of trees. I think we got everything. We got our guest room, and we got the bed. Oh, here was another weird thing. We wanted the sliding glass doors on, like, just several of them. Well, we have one in the kitchen. We have one in the bedroom. We have one in the office. I'm telling you, it is the weirdest house. When I look around, I keep coming up with something else that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. We did want that. Very weird.
That is
very
so
nice.
Wonderful. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, this is a true law of attraction story, because this was probably years of different thoughts in our head about what we wanted, and it kind of came true. I don't know what else to call that.
Well, congratulations. I mean, for manifesting all of it, but for actually getting what you wanted and being so happy there. I mean, congratulations. That's an exciting thing.
It is. It's really exciting. We didn't know, and it really did happen. So it can happen for people, which is the story I like to be telling people when they're feeling kind of confused.
Yep. Did you have any doubt periods? Any periods where you were saying, "Oh, this isn't going to happen"?
Regarding this house in particular?
Right.
Only that nervousness where there's a price and you put out an offer and you're not sure they're going to take it, and they countered. That's why I was jumping up and down and screaming. I was so excited they came back close to that number. So the doubt was not there too long after we found it. I think I just was a little nervous in those first few days. Just, are they going to accept? And it felt like days rather than hours.
Oh, sure.
So being someone that actually manifested something they wanted, what advice would you give to anybody listening who's in that situation where they haven't manifested something yet but they want to? Like, from your experience, what advice would you share?
Oh, that's a tough one, because it's so hard. You know how when you're confused about it, or you're not 100% like you're talking about the doubt, it seems kind of overwhelming. But I suppose if I had to think anything, I'd say, like you say, if you're putting out those rockets of desire, they stay there. They don't disappear, I guess, is what I would have learned, that they're still there, and they will manifest when they're supposed to, I suppose, right?
I would say also that your doubt level was very minimal, because the worst that you had was just some worry. You never really, it sounds like you never really doubted that it was going to happen one way or another. You were concerned, like, oh, Jesus, when's it going to happen? Is it going to happen when we want it? But you didn't really believe that, oh, that'll never happen for me. I
did not believe that, no. I did think it would. I couldn't see it, but I almost just knew it had to, because it was like, that's where we're going. Nothing's going to stop us. But I couldn't see the details.
And you were excited, too. You were really excited. The excitement, those are the two factors I always look for when, looking for why it is or when it is something's going to manifest for somebody. If they're excited and they really haven't let those really deep doubt thoughts into their minds, and they're excited and they're a little bit scared perhaps, but they're not doubting, the excitement plus the confidence at that level is enough. That's what it takes.
Yes.
I suppose so. And then it seems like the more I was excited, the quicker this went. I mean, obviously my husband and I were both excited about it, so we had double the, excitement. But it seemed like
I'm assuming the more excited you were, the less resistance you had about it happening. So that also sped it up, I'm sure.
It must have, because here we are, and I could not have seen this place, because I know that many times I said to my husband, I know it's going to happen.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like, obviously,
or how,
but I know what I want, or how, but it did. So that what else can you say? It did happen.
But that's one of the keys, though, that you experience, is that you didn't get caught up in how. Because a lot of times when people want to manifest something, they spend so much time getting caught up in the how that it actually causes more resistance. And then it blocks it more from happening. So you just experienced wanting it, you didn't get caught up in how, and boom, you went up that street you normally don't go up, and there it was.
And there it was. But I have to say, for other people, just in case this is happening for them, that during when my husband was going through cancer, there was a couple of times where, I just hit bottom of like hysterical crying that this was never going to happen because certain financial things. And I just was feeling so miserable and so doubtful at that time. And that was maybe about a year before. And I think, though, that I've heard regarding law of attraction that sometimes it's the opposite of, like, you're feeling so bad, meaning you're going to get something that's so good the other side. Does that make sense?
I think what happens is that once you get through that period, assuming that you don't stay there assuming that you don't live there, assuming that you actually do, improve your emotional situation improves, your outlook improves, then what actually happens, I think, it isn't so much that it's because you were feeling so bad that it got so good. It's because you allowed yourself to stop feeling bad. You allowed yourself to feel good, and that's what brought everything up to speed again, so to speak. That's what started racing it toward you, so that when you were actually ready to see it, boom, it was right there.
Oh, I like that theory a whole lot better, truthfully. I do, because I guess that's actually true. And then as we got good news regarding his cancer treatments, obviously you felt even more, enthusiastic and looking forward to the future. And so it all, but there were some moments that were pretty dark,
Sure.
and I didn't see how it was going to happen.
Well, it reinforces two things. First of all, it reinforces that even if we're in a bad place, a really bad place, and you were in like the worst possible kind, because you're afraid for your husband's life, and that's like a miserable place to be in. Even if you are in a place like that, it doesn't mean that you are precluded from ever successfully attracting what you want ever again, because you did.
Even if you feel that way at that moment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very likely that it won't manifest immediately because you're in a bad vibrational place, but you changed. That's the key thing. Your vibration changed. You got better. You felt better. Your husband got better. And as you did that, that opened up the universe to you again. That made the possibilities happen the way you wanted it to. That's a great thing.
You can't really argue with that. Yeah,
and it happened when you were ready. It happened when you were ready.
Right. And we had gotten up here. We were only up here a couple of months. And just by being here, our vibration was raised because we were feeling better about our surroundings right off the bat. So you're right. So everything was just feeling. The feeling part was better.
So what really needs to happen here is, yes, you need congratulations for getting the house because that's exciting. But what you need more than that is you need to pat yourselves on the back because you were in a bad place and you didn't stay there like so many people do. They'll just stay there. And they'll start thinking all the bad thoughts. Oh, well, sure, he's in remission now, but who knows what's going to happen a month from now or, any other kind of stuff you can go through. You didn't do that. You deliberately went you went deliberately against what your reality was telling you. You said, no, I'm not going to buy into that. You didn't buy into it. Your husband didn't buy into it. And look what happened.
Exactly. We insisted that there was something up ahead that was going to be better, and we knew we wanted something better. So we didn't go stay in the down part. And yes, you definitely could. But I think
you guys made a choice, and it worked.
It did. It did. I could not have imagined this particular place. And I know that I said, I don't know if it was you, maybe you guys told me, but I think you might have, Walt, I'm not sure, but something about that the house is being prepared for us. So let's say 5 months ago, they were working on our house and they were fixing it up and they were going to be putting it on the market, etc. And it was all happening for us, but we couldn't see it.
Well, sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Because I always like to remind people about whatever it is they want, that the universe is on your side, and a lot of things are lining up that we can't see.
Yes, I could not have seen this.
Yeah, they actually start to line up the moment that you put your request out. But because we can't see it, we can't really correlate. We can't say, well, I can just see it over there.
Right. You can't even see some of the little things. Like you can't see the paperwork working out. You can't see just so much of it.
And yet it happens. So, among other things, this is something you can always look back on, too, because you can always say to yourself, things aren't going well, you're not feeling great, you're not in your best place, and so forth, and you know it, and you can say, well, we did do it before. We just got ourselves into that really good feeling place, and we just felt confident. If we did it before, look what we produced, we can do it again.
Yeah.
Why is that difficult, though? That's a funny thing, because I can see what happened with this house, and I could tell this story, and it is amazing, but still sometimes on other issues, you go, wow, I don't see how that's going to work out.
I think it's because we are all brought up in a society that believes that you have to work hard. That things don't come easily. You have to work hard for them. You have to keep your nose to the grindstone. You have to just keep on keeping on. You have to suffer your way until you finally get rewarded for your suffering. That's basically the way our society sees things, whether through religion or through entertainment or anybody else. I mean, they all kind of zero in on the same thing. So it's not what the law of attraction and science of deliberate creation teaches. It's an entirely different way of thinking. So when we finally shift our thinking over and do it the new way, yeah, we have that great experience. Yeah, we have that reinforcement, but we have a whole lifetime built into our subconscious mind that everything works the other way. So we fall back into that pattern. It's an easy pattern to fall into because that's where we live most of our lives. So that's really,
it is a comfortable place.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So, when we're in that place and we feel like, oh yeah, this is the place we're used to being in, then all of a sudden we say, well, geez, we're not manifesting anything anymore. It takes work. It takes a deliberate effort, a deliberate intention, and in many cases, constant vigilance. I mean, for me, it's been constant vigilance to just keep reminding myself, get back into that positive place, get back there. I don't care what kind of day you're having today. Do whatever steps you have to take to get back there, or at least get yourself out of this negative funk you're in right now. That's the thing. And the more that we do that, and the more that we do work on ourselves in terms of loving ourselves more and feeling good about the good things that happen, and when something bad happens, doing the pivot and finding the good part of it, finding the silver lining. When we keep doing that, then we get to the point where it starts happening more often, because we're getting ourselves into that place and staying there more often. But you're right. That it's like the magnet pulling you back. Like, oh no, don't enjoy all that success. There's all this failure over here waiting for you.
Yes, I have to admit, I do have that going through my head sometimes. I do have that.
But can you remember? Because we always talk about how we feel is an indicator of where we are vibrationally. So obviously, if we're feeling happier and better, we're at a higher vibration than that. So can you feel, you said when this whole house thing was going, you were excited and it felt really good. Like, can you feel the difference of that compared to the times when you're suddenly doubting whatever?
Definitely. But, then I can say, oh, well, that was because I could really see it. Like, now I actually had the house to look at, and we'd walk over here every day. Right, while it was in escrow, we picture our stuff in here and we just talk about it. And so that was very positive. But certain things, how to certain things, you're like, you can't
I was going to say, though, when you do catch yourself in that other mode of the resistance, like the fear, worry, doubt about something, just kind of, if you can remember, like, oh, remember how good I felt when all the house stuff was working out, and let me try to get back there little by little, and just like deliberately start pulling yourself up, even just little by little. You think you could do that? Right.
Yes, I do try that, and then sometimes I even say to myself, then don't do anything. Just go watch TV. Just take your mind off of that, so that at least you're not in the negative.
Do something enjoyable. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
because that's the key. It's like anybody can fall vibrationally for whatever reason, but it's the key, I think, is not allowing ourselves to stay there, like realizing it and thinking, okay, wait a minute, I got to do something to make myself feel a little better here. So like you were saying, Go watch something funny, deliberately think about things you enjoy, call a friend you enjoy talking to that you're going to feel good if you're talking to them, or whatever it is. It's just taking that deliberate action in those moments so you don't keep yourself at that low place.
I think one of the things is I don't like being miserable. I don't like that feeling at all. Yeah, like, I know everyone says that, but I really hate it. So I try to do something to change that.
That's great. That's the key. Yes, you're not letting yourself stay there too long.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
It's too uncomfortable.
Because whenever people get stuck, that's what they're stuck in. They're stuck in the old behavior patterns, and they just, for whatever reason, are not willing to take the steps to shift their emotions. And let's be honest, that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, for the longest time, up until about 10 years ago, I would have told you it was impossible to do.
No way.
Well, I understand.
Well, it's true. I mean, I actually would have argued for the idea that I have no control over my emotions. That, in fact, my emotions are completely subject to what happens to me in my life. And if things are going good, then my emotions are good. And if things are going bad, my emotions are bad. And that's all there is to it. There's nothing I can do about it. That's what I really believed.
Yeah.
Yes. I think many people do.
Well,
I know it's so liberating to me when it clicks that our mood cannot be circumstantial. We can't rely on something good to happen to keep us in a good mood. We have to create that, so we are in a good mood.
For me, it wasn't just can't. It's like it's like, oh my goodness! You mean there's a possibility I can shift my emotions? That was like a revelation. I'm serious. That was a huge revelation.
I have a question for you, though. I just have a quick question to see if this is, when this happens, like how you keep that. I'm assuming this has happened maybe to many people, or certainly you guys, that for no reason at all, you can be just going to the store, let's say, and you are feeling so good. You're excited. You don't even know why. Not because you're going to the store. You don't even have an explanation. You're just feeling like you don't even need anything in the world to happen. If you could stay in that crazy, happy vibration, you'd be beyond happy for all eternity. But it doesn't last, and it's really hard to figure where does that go? You know, it came on suddenly, and then it left suddenly.
I would say one thing is not to, and I'm not saying this is what you do, but to anyone listening, or maybe this is what you do, is when you do have those moments, do your best not to try to figure out why you are in a low vibration, because that's just wasting time. It's not serving you. It's keeping you there. I would just rather realize that, and then, like I was saying earlier, do something deliberately to start getting yourself up out of that little by little.
Right.
And unlike David, I actually like to explain. I like to explain why stuff happens. So why does it happen? Because of the long-standing habit of staying in the low vibration. That's really all it is. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop a more consistent pattern. And the more consistently we get into that high vibration place, and actually do exercises. I don't know what kind of daily routine you have. For myself, every morning I wake up and I've been doing this now for 28 days. Like, yeah, that's right. I'm a month into it.
Oh, that's right. How's that going?
I'm doing mirror work. Every morning I get up and I look in the mirror and I start off by saying, as I'm looking in my own eyes, I say, I love you. I think you're wonderful. I think you're terrific. And then I start talking about all the good things that are going on and keep going. You're doing great. I just give myself like this little pep talk. And I do that every morning for about a minute because that's about all I can handle. The first morning was really, really rough. The second morning was a lot easier. The third morning was really easier. I was amazed. By the fourth morning, it was like, this isn't too bad. I can actually do this. So that's what allowed me to keep going. But what happens over time as you do that and you do other kinds of things like meditation or affirmations or any of the kinds of things you can do. My wife and I love to do a thing called 3 gratitudes. At the end of the day, or 3 good things we call it. We each come up with 3 things that happened that day that were good, so we can relive them, and it gives us more fodder, so to speak, for feeling good for another 5 minutes or another 10 minutes about something that happened earlier. So all the things like that you can do to just keep deliberately, hour by hour, even moment by moment, looking for all the ways you can feel good. If you keep doing that, then it gets easier to stay there. I mean, I'm now at the point where, like, yesterday was a bad day and it was really unusual. That was the first bad day I'd had in about a month.
So when you say bad day, you mean low vibration, or was that what you mean?
Meaning that I wasn't feeling positive. I was feeling a little negative. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't, in a really deep, deep negative. I was in a mild negative, like, a little frustrated, a little pissy, that kind of thing. And I hated it because I have not been there lately. For a number of days in a row, a number of weeks in a row, I was feeling really great. So to fall on that level, I wanted to climb out of there so fast. And I did. Yeah. I basically put on some music. I have a positive music list on my iPhone. I plugged in my headphones and I just went into the bedroom, got away from Louise, from everybody, from everything, and just listened to positive music for about an hour, and it lifted, and I felt better. But that was my only bad day in the last month.
And that's amazing. I applaud you, because that's the key. Again, that's the key, that you realized you were there.
Exactly.
You took deliberate action to get yourself out of there.
And I say that as making a point that you were concerned. Okay, why is it we don't stay there? Why is it we keep falling back? Well, if you keep doing these deliberate exercises every single day to keep building yourself, and building yourself up, you don't fall back. Or when you do, it's really rare. And you keep going and keep going. I mean, Jack Canfield is the one who advocates the mirror work that I've been doing. And according to him, after 40 days, all the negative self-talk disappears. Well, I'm 28 days in. I can't say all the negative self-talk is gone, but it's a lot quieter. It's not as big and noisy in my head.
Wow, I can't even imagine such a thing.
Yeah.
That would be quite a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still there. I know it's there. And if I pay attention to it, I can dredge it back up. But it's a lot quieter.
That's great.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would take a small quieter. Yeah.
So, do it for 30 days, 40 days, and you'll get the same experience. It's really something.
So how do you to do it? That's what you do. You just stand in front of the mirror and
just once a day, yourself. About a minute, basically until I can't stand it anymore.
I was going to say a whole minute. I'm not sure I can stand there for a minute when I wake up in the morning.
Well, my first
day, makeup.
Day one, it was about 5 seconds. That's all I could handle on day one. Day two was about 15 seconds. Day three, I got up to about a half a minute, and you kind of get better and better over time. What I found that made it easier, the first day I didn't know what to do, so I just said, I love you. I said, oh, God, I can't even see this. The second day, I tried to add a couple things. By the fourth or fifth day, though, I was starting to just say, well, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not sure how you're supposed to do it, so I'm just going to talk about the things that are going on, and I'm just going to be my own coach. I'm going to be my cheerleader. So I'm just going to cheer to myself. That gave me something to do for a minute,
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and it works. It does work. I mean, after one of those sessions in the morning, I'm ready for the next thing. I feel like, okay, let's go. Here we go.
This is kind of a personal question, but then did things start happening that were making you happier? Were there things you were wanting? Do you know what I mean? Is it just because you want to stay in the good vibration, but were there things you were trying to manifest?
I have not anything in particular that I've specifically manifested in the last month that was one on my big list of things. Partly because I didn't really expect anything.
It was more to keep the negative self-talk.
Yeah, it was more. That was actually the main goal, was to get rid of the negative self-talk. That was the primary goal. I have a couple things that I'm working on, including this book that we're working on. I don't know if you're aware of it, but the co-authors and I and a whole bunch of other life coaches have all put together a bunch of manifestation stories. In fact, if you want, we can include your manifestation story if you want to write it up. But we're in the process of we're in the process of.
I'm not a great writer, but I'm happy to put all the facts down and.
Yeah, just write it up the best you can. Tell the whole story. Okay. Tell about the downs as well as the ups. I mean, tell about how bad things were a year ago, and tell us the whole thing. And if you send it to me, I'm a pretty good editor. I can spice it up to make it read well and so forth. But just throw in as many details as you can, and then send it to me. I'll be happy to do it.
Well, that's great. Janet's going to be part of the book.
Yeah, but that book's going to be that's
an amazing story.
It is amazing. Yeah. And that book we're planning to release sometime by the end of this month. I'm in the middle of editing it right now, so. The sooner the better in terms of getting it to me. Let's put it that way.
Okay, that does sound like a great book, because those are the kind of stories where you like to hear them. People can just show that this really does happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's some great stories in it.
How are people going to be able to get the book once it's done?
We are going to make an announcement about that at the point of publication, just leading up to it. Listeners are going to be able actually to get a copy of the ebook for free. There's going to be both a paperback book and an ebook version through Amazon Kindle, which you'll actually be able to play on any device just by downloading their software. But there's going to be a very limited opportunity for our listeners to get a free copy. So you want to keep listening so that you can get that, because we want you to have a free copy.
Perfect.
That'll be great.
Fun. I would love to hear Janet, the other stories.
Just out of curiosity, Janet, so how long have you been, for lack of a better way of saying it, working with the law of attraction?
I would say I've heard about it a few years back, and probably the very first year, it was like, you might as well have been a different language. Yes. I didn't know what on earth. It was so foreign, the concept, that just, I could not understand, but I stuck with it. And then as I'd go, I'd be like, little tiny pieces would sink in. And then after learning more about it, it was just kind of obvious, actually, when you're
but even
good.
In the beginning, something about it must have resonated with you, where you were like, oh, this kind of makes sense or something.
I guess I don't know. I like the idea of it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea of, like you were saying, that you have to work so hard and it's all supposed to be difficult, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really wants that.
That's not fun.
No. And isn't it amazing, too, how important fun is?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This goes beyond law of attraction. Oh, and laughter. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This goes way beyond LOA theory, too. I mean, the positive psychology movement have proven repeatedly that if you want to be successful, you got to be happy first. But if you're one of the people who are going for success in order to be happy, you're much less likely to get there. Yeah. I think the percentages are something like, if you're happy first, you have a 90% chance of success. If you're aiming for success first in order to be happy, you have about a 10% chance.
Wow.
Right. So it is worth the work.
Yeah.
To get happy.
It definitely is.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
And that's true. What you're saying. It is work. It does take practice. It does take awareness. It does take the mindset to say, okay, well, when I'm thinking about something negative, I'm going to flip to what I want, and all that kind of thing. It does take work.
It does take work, I think, because sometimes that negative, it's almost like an addiction. Like, you just want to stay in that funk and you want to spin around in it for a while, and I do anyway.
That is a great way of describing it.
I just can't take it anymore.
Oh, yeah. Joel and I have talked a lot about the addictive side of negative behavior, and we agree with what you're saying. It definitely is an addiction. Mm-hmm. And it's an addiction that most people don't break out of because, well, first of all, they aren't aware of LOA. But even if they're aware that it's not healthy to be in that negative place, they still won't climb out of it. The addiction is really, really strong. It actually is. You actually have to come to the point of believing that you deserve more than what you previously thought, and that's not an easy place to get to.
And that's hard.
Yeah, it takes effort to get there, but you can. Anybody can get there. It just takes effort.
Now, is your husband LOA aware at all, or how is that?
He is definitely. He would. We actually would do some law of attraction things while he was going through some of his chemo.
Good.
And at some point, he was so sick that he really couldn't even focus on what was being said.
Yeah.
But that particular year, it's just so crazy. Anyone who's gone through it knows how. I can't even explain it, but it's very ugly.
But in general, though, he knows about it, and he likes to talk about it with you and such.
Yes, we do. I can talk to him about that. He can talk to me about that. And so that's a big, huge help, because I can imagine it would be hard if you're with someone and they just are rolling their eyes or they don't get it.
Yeah. I find it's actually harder when you're the one.
That question.
I find it's hardest when you're the one who's rolling the eyes. When you're rolling the eyes, that's the hardest time.
You're probably right. Yes, I have rolled my eyes many times.
Oh, I have too.
But Walt, was Louise into it before you or not? Or
no. I was into it first. Oh,
you were. Okay.
I watched The Secret in 2008, 2 years after it came out, and that got me going on it. And then about, I think I figured it was 5 or 6 months later, I brought it up with. Well, I'd already told Louise about it, and she was kind of curious, but she wasn't really interested. And then my brother and my sister-in-law were visiting, and among the four of us, I brought it up again and kind of tossed it out there to see if anybody would knock it down. And nobody knocked it down, which was good. And that's when I proposed the idea, well, maybe we should do like a podcast together. And I got little sniffs of interest, and that was about it. And then about 5 months after that, I got Louise to try to do the first podcast with me, and that's when LOA Today was born on September 26, 2012. So that's when I first got going.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is actually
a long time.
Is she more into it now?
I just realized I screwed up the time frame, because I discovered LOA in 2008. The meeting with my brother and my sister-in-law was in 2012. So there was actually a 4-year period before I got that going. But
did your wife understand it right away?
Well, it's easy to understand the basic concept. I think what you're really asking is, did she believe it? And I think we've kind of grown to believe it over time. We believed it for sure starting in January 2013, because that's when we had our crazy manifestation story, which is going to be in the book. And just like yours had all these little twists and turns. You think yours had twists and turns? You should see our story. I mean, it is absolutely a bizarre story. And talk about not being able to predict how it was going to work out. If I had tried to script that one, they would have taken me away with the men in the white coats, because my script would have made no sense whatsoever.
That is really funny, but it's kind of a nice thing to hear.
Oh, yeah. In fact, this book is going to be very cool. David's story is fantastic. It's also a home finding story. Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah. I mean, he talks about how, without having sufficient funds, he got an apartment on Central Park West, one of the most desirable places to live in Manhattan. I mean, unbelievable.
Yes.
That is crazy.
It's such a LOA story. I can't wait till people read it, because it really is.
It is. It's great. It's a great story. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of really, really good ones in there, too. I mean, Wendy Dillard, who's my afternoon co-host Monday through Friday, gave me 3 stories, one of which was also a house-finding story. And talk about a roller coaster. That one was insane. But what she ended up with was just blow your mind good. I mean, this is going to be a good book.
And I'm sure none of us could say how even thought that something could happen the way it did happen.
Well, especially for Wendy, because this happened for her before she even knew what the law of attraction was. So she was flying blind. She was flying completely blind.
Wow.
But when you hear the story,
sounds like a really fun book.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be really great. Yeah. So, you want to make sure you write yours up quick so I can include it, because I really need to get it in the next few days if you can.
But what happens if the book does so well, it takes over the world and becomes so popular? It's like, wow. And then all of us are called in to be interviewed on something. I don't know.
I'm going to have to be doing a lot of that work where I go into the mirror and say, wow, you look fantastic today, for me to be on.
There you go. Look, I don't know. Louise is convinced this is going to be a New York Times bestseller. We're aiming for Amazon bestseller status, and we think we can get that. New York Times, if we can get that one, whew, oh my goodness, that would just be mind-blowing.
You'll just add a little bit more momentum now, because I'll be thinking about it for you.
Well, I think it's going to do well because, like we talked about earlier, people like reading the stories of how things manifested. And once they do, it's going to be like, wow, if he manifested or she manifested that, I can manifest what I want. So I think it's going to have a curiosity about it that people are going to want to read it. Because all these amazing stories, and they're all true.
Well, plus they're also like Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, that book series was so popular because the stories made people feel good. Not because they were manifestation stories. They weren't necessarily manifestation stories, but because they felt good. And, if somebody was going through a hard time, they could pick up the book, read a couple stories, get ready to go to sleep and, have a deep night's sleep without being troubled by whatever the craziness going on in their life was. Well, This is going to be the same kind of thing because they're all really positive stories, but they also have the manifestation piece to it. So I think it's going to be Chicken Soup for the Soul on steroids.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's the good kind of steroids, not the bad kind of steroids.
I mean, I know if I was someone who was into law of attraction, I saw a book like that, I would definitely want to read it because I'd be like, wow, I want to know what people manifested and how, and I would be very interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too.
Oh, definitely. That will be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And so I'm glad that you've decided you want to participate. I'll save you a spot. When you're done.
Okay, great. I'll shoot that off to you very shortly. I'll sit down and.
Okay. My email, by the way, is Walt.
Write that up.
My email is walt@loatoday.net, so it's pretty easy to remember.
Today.net. Okay.
Yeah, loatoday.net. So Walt at, very simple. So just shoot it off to me, and we'll incorporate it.
Yay! Because it's
remember,
a good
Jenna,
story.
Anything you want to manifest, just kind of do what you did with the house. Just keep your excitement up about it, and you don't have to know how it's going to happen or anything like that, and just focus on the outcome of whatever it is you want, and it'll be.
I will do that, and I think just one of those most important things is that you said is that some of these things, they could be back in your childhood or whenever you thought about them.
Yeah,
it's just really cool. It's really cool.
But it's in your vortex. It went into your vortex.
I have to admit too, I've often wondered about that vortex because it's got all this stuff in there, right? That I've been rocketing about for years, for generations, practically. You know,
yeah,
or so it seems. And I often wondered, like, if I wanted, like, to be on a cruise ship, if I got into the vortex and I was actually sitting there, would the cruise ship come at me at like 250 miles an hour and I'd have to duck?
I would hope the universe would organize that a little better.
I hope so. Yeah.
You would get a call out of the blue. Hey, Walt, so and so and I are going on the cruise to the Bahamas, and we got you a ticket. And you'll be like, "Oh, wow, okay, I'll go."
At some point, you won't even be surprised.
That's right.
Like,
yes.
Oh yeah, I was waiting for this call.
That's true. That's very true. And by the way, universe, I'm not actually putting anything out about wanting to go on a cruise. It's not really one of my wishes. So, you don't actually have to put that one into the vortex. And if you do, I promise I'll duck.
Late.
Too late. I love that.
Too late.
Well, okay.
You can always give that ticket to someone else.
Well, I'll just trade it for a trip to Hawaii because that's where I really want to go.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Oh, well, then that's already a done deal. Isn't that how that works?
Why do you want to go to Hawaii?
Because it's not on a cruise ship? No, I mean, that's not the real reason. No, because I like tropics. I love tropical weather. And Hawaii has so much stuff on all, they have a number of islands there, right? And each one of those islands has, it's practically like a completely different environment with all the stuff they have there. I mean, anything that you could possibly imagine, from volcanoes to snorkeling to, just, beautiful shoreline and everywhere and inland. There are like gardens and there are like all these. It's just so many things to see. I mean, I spent a couple weeks.
It smells good just getting off the airplane.
Oh yeah.
How do you think you would feel when you're on those islands?
Oh, thank goodness I finally made it. It'd be a sigh of relief, like, oh, wow. I actually got here.
Thank God I'm not on that cruise ship.
That's right.
Keep yourself in that vibration about Hawaii, and you will be going.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know when or how, but you will. You'll be there one day, and you'll be thinking, oh, my God, that's right. Here I am.
Well, Jen was asking
You'll
about...
be like, wow, we were just talking about it on the radio.
That's right. Well, Jen was asking me if I had manifested anything in February, and no, I have not manifested the trip to Hawaii in February, but that is one of the things that's been on the list for a while. So, yes, when that one shows up, it's going to be another manifestation story.
Oh, it will. It definitely will then.
Yep, no doubt about it.
That's so much fun. Makes me want to go out right now and think about what else I want.
Good.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Yes. Because once you get the bug, it's like, well, it's like what Jack Canfield said. Jack Canfield worked with W. Clement Stone, who was a very successful promoter of success formulas and positive thinking and so forth, but he was also successful in his field, the field of insurance. And Jack Canfield was working with him. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing with Stone, but Stone's asked him to think of something that he couldn't imagine he could possibly get, but something that he'd like to have, but it was just like, far beyond anything that he could imagine. Now, this was circa 1980, and in that time frame, he was making about $8,000 a year. He says, well, I'd like to make $100,000. So he took a $1 bill and he added zeros to it to make it look like a $100,000 bill, and then he pasted it to the ceiling above his bed, so that every morning he'd look up and he'd see his $100,000 bill up there, and use that as a way to keep programming into his mind how much he wanted it, he'd be excited to have it, and so forth. Well, he started doing that, and then nothing really happened for the next month or two. He didn't have any, $100,000 ideas or anything like that. And then one day, he said, there's this book I've written, and if I could get like 25 cents royalty on every book for like 400,000 books, I'd have $100,000. Now, he had no idea how to sell 400,000 books. He hadn't the faintest clue how to do it. But he figured, okay, well, at least I have perhaps a way to do it. Let's see if there's a way to make it happen. And then one day he was at the at the supermarket shopping, and he saw a copy of the National Enquirer at the checkout line. And the way he describes it is, well, in the past, that was all just background. I never saw it. But this time it just kind of jumped out at him. And he said, well, if I could find a way to get my message to those readers, there's probably 400,000 people who would, buy the book because they have millions and millions of readers, right? Within a very short period of time after that, he gave a talk at Hunter College. And after the talk, one of the people in the audience came up to him and said, that was a great talk. I'd really like to interview you. Can we arrange a time to interview? And he says, well, who do you write for? And she says, well, I freelance most of the time, but most of my material goes to the National Enquirer. So, so he says there's like a Twilight Zone going on in his mind. Do, 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 do.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So he gets the interview, and the interview goes well, and they sell a whole bunch of books. And to make the long story short, he doesn't make $100,000 that year. He makes $92,000 in change. And his reaction is, do you think we were disappointed? He says, no, we were ecstatic. And then his wife says to him, well, do you think it would work with $1 million? And he says, I don't know. I think so. The next year, their publisher of Chicken Soup for the Soul wrote them a check for $1 million and signed it with a little smiley face. And he said he signed it with a smiley face because it was the first $1 million check he'd ever written for royalties.
Wow, that is a crazy story.
Isn't that a great one, though?
Hey, but if you take the 92 and the 8 they made, didn't that get him up to that 100,000?
That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way. I don't know. He didn't break it down. I couldn't tell you, but all I know is if I jumped from 8,000 to 92,000, I'd be excited no matter what.
Yes.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for being our co-host tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I didn't think I was a co-host, but this has been fun, and I'm happy to have been able to update you on my story, and I'll get that out to you.
And thank you for doing the update, by the way, because I know we did ask you to come back and tell us what happened.
Yeah.
But when I say that, I half wonder, are they really going to come back? And you did. This is great.
I did, because it was such a crazy story, and it's so vivid in my mind, the conversation we had on here, and it was just nuts. So I had to tell you.
I'm so glad you did. I can't say I'm terribly surprised. I am a little bit surprised I'm a tiny bit surprised and pleasantly surprised that you did come back and tell us. But I'm not surprised that it manifested for you, because when we talked, you didn't give us all the backstory of what was going on with your husband, but at the time we talked last fall, you sounded very up. I don't know if you realized that, but you were in a Yeah, you sounded very positive when you were talking to us. So I felt like, this is going to work.
I think whenever I was thinking about the house, or I talk about it, I was just excited about the whole idea. So that might have been why I was excited.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's what we have to do. That's our job, to get excited about it, even though it hasn't shown up yet. And that's right. Exactly what you did. That's great.
Yay!
Yeah. Yes. And you might want to break out your sunscreen, because you're probably going off to Hawaii sooner than you think.
Well, I can hardly wait. Let's go. Let's do it. I'll bring you along. How about that?
Tell Louise to get the suitcase.
There we go. Yeah. All right.
Every time you see the suitcase, you'll be like, oh, that's my suitcase for Hawaii. Yay.
Well, want to let everybody know we will be getting back to the Astonishing Power of Emotions next week, but we had to break out to do this week. And Jen, I'm so glad that we did that. I'm glad that you gave us this story, so thank you so much for doing it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. And that's about it. David, it's been a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, and if anybody wants some wonderful law of attraction coaching, they can go to lifecoachdavid.com or just email me at david@lifecoachdavid.com.
All right, David. It's been a pleasure. Talk to you again next week.
Have a great one.
We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.